Erev Tov and Shana Tova. The first moments of 5776 are upon us. A new year, a fresh start. And already I feel I am like a bit inside of a Seinfeld episode. If you've seen all 874 million of them as I have, you might remember the one where George is running all over the place yelling, "Worlds are colliding! Worlds are colliding!" The holiest days of the year are upon us. The Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, when we are reminded of the true power of God, and when each one of us is commanded to ask for forgiveness and to forgive others. To review our year and ask, have I done all I could? Have I treated others with dignity and respect, care and compassion? To look forward and wonder, what events will unfold in our world this year? Will my family and I be inscribed in the book of life? How can I make the world a better place? Those heavy questions with few answers. And as we enter into this holiest time of the Jewish year, other important, some would say religious days are upon us as well. It is the start of the NFL season. And so our minds drift to the year that has just passed. The Eagles were 8-4. How could we possibly lose 3 in a row and miss the playoffs? We reflect. We are crestfallen and heartbroken. And we wonder about the year ahead. Do we have a roster that can get us into the Super Bowl? Will Bradford make it through the whole year or be inscribed in the book of injured reserve for 4 or 6 or 8 weeks? But as I look at these two worlds colliding, I really get the feeling it's all going to work out this year. You see, tonight we have come together as a community to usher in our new year. And we will continue that celebration and reflection tomorrow here in our sanctuary and at Tyler Park. And on Tuesday, we have the opportunity to enhance our Rosh Hashanah observance at Clark Nature Center in the morning and or our second day Rosh Hashanah study and discussion right here in the afternoon. And smack dab in the middle, tomorrow night, the Eagles play the Falcons. So what I am saying is that we can fully observe Rosh Hashanah and watch the Eagles game. To me, this proves a couple of very important things. One, God is an Eagles fan. And two, it's all going to work out this year. I mean, to me, it's as clear as day. 57-76 is going to be awesome. So now you know I like Seinfeld, and you already knew I love sports, especially the Eagles. But I want to let you know something else. Music is central to my life and has been for many years. I am guessing music fills the same role for many of you. When I get up in the morning and go for a walk or a run, but more likely a walk, I do so listening to music that gets my heart and mind pumped up. On my drive from Bala-Cynwyd to Shir Ami, I'm tuned into the radio, bouncing around on the channels from folk to heavy metal. Yes, this is true. And I also feel compelled at this time of year when we are baring our souls to mention that I really do not spend any time listening to Billy Joel. I know, a Jew who does not love Billy Joel, a Shonda. But I feel better for telling everybody tonight, and I hope that you and that God will forgive me. On countless nights throughout the summer and when I can during the year, I make my way to concerts, often running into members of our Shir Ami family. This summer, several of us went to the Mann Music Center to see Fish in concert. For those who do not know, Fish is one of the great jam bands of all time. Think the Grateful Dead. That evening, Fish played a song called Rock and Roll, which tells the story of a girl who looks at the world around her and sees that to be happy and content, all you need to do is listen and dance to rock and roll. Maybe a little simplistic as a philosophy, but there is one lyric in the song that stuck out to me that night. 2 TV sets and 2 Cadillac cars. Well, you know, it ain't gonna help you at all. Now let me say I have nothing against Cadillac or television. While I do not have a Cadillac, I hear they are wonderful cars. And I have more than 2 TVs at home. And yes, I watch them all the time and enjoy it very much. If you'd like to stop by tomorrow and watch the Eagles game, feel free. But what I think the lyric is trying to teach is that we spend our whole life trying to accumulate material items that we will believe will make us happier and bring excitement to our lives, when in reality, they do not. Then in the end, all of the material things can be taken away. But there are other things in life that no matter what, can never be taken away. and are of infinite value. It is ultimately these things that help us through life in deep and powerful ways, far more than any TV or car could ever do. So, I thought, as I stood amongst thousands of others at the Mann Music Center on a warm summer evening, what should we accumulate that will have deep meaning and that no one can ever take away? Immediately, my mind drifted to last December, when I stood with our 8th and 9th graders at Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. For those who have been there, you know how moving this place is. Every time you go, something strikes you that you hadn't seen before. This time for me was noticing how many of the rooms were filled with the items that had been confiscated by the Nazis. Suitcases with family names, jewelry, cutlery, shoes, and Jewish ritual items. Of course, I knew these things had been stolen by the Nazis, but the sheer magnitude of what they took and how they took the items moved me in a way I had not been moved before. And about halfway through our time at Yad Vashem, our tour guide said something that drove the feeling home even further. Amongst the many lessons learned by the Jewish people during the Shoah was that all material items could be taken away, but that one's intellect, one's knowledge, could not be. How true. In fact, every day in the Amidah, we recite the following words: Atah chonen la'adam da'at u'milamed le'enosh bina, chanenu me'idcha dea bina v'hasechel, baruch atah Adonai, chonen hada'at. God, you give us knowledge and teach humankind understanding. Give us knowledge, understanding, and common sense. Blessed are you, Adonai, giver of knowledge. Prayer is an amazing thing. On the one hand, it appears we are asking God for something. In this case, knowledge, understanding, and common sense. But the rabbis remind us that God does not need our prayers. Trust me, you're going to read over the next 10 days about 100 times that God knows our innermost thoughts. So why do we recite these words? To remind ourselves that we must do what we are asking God to do. In this prayer, the words we speak should compel us to gain knowledge, understanding, and common sense. We can do this in many ways, including by learning something new. This is my hope and Judaism's call for the year. Learn something new. Gain knowledge, understanding, and common sense, because this knowledge can never be taken away and is of infinite value. We should be compelled because our people have prayed these words for thousands of years. And each time we learn something new, we connect to the dreams of our ancestors. We should be compelled to educate ourselves because it honors those who suffered the greatest of horrors and never gave up on learning. We should be compelled to gain insight and knowledge of ourselves because this time of year demands it. Just as God knows our innermost thoughts, we too should learn more about who and what we are and want to be. With this in mind, I want to invite you to join Rabbi Simon, Rabbi Strom, Cantor Elson, Rabbi Paula Goldberg, and myself throughout the year for our adult education series, focusing on Jewish views of issues connected to the 2016 presidential election. Attend Hevrat Torah on Shabbat mornings and enjoy bagels and coffee while studying the portion of the week. Be with us for Lunch and Learn as we take a look at current events and timely issues through a Jewish lens. And if you desire to learn something we are not yet teaching here at Shir Ami, feel free to contact me and we can set up a time to meet and study together. I am sure Rabbi Simon, Rabbi Strom, Rabbi Paula Goldberg, and Cantor Elson all feel the same. But let us not restrict our learning to only the Jewish world and Jewish thought. Take an art class, engage in study about history or economics, learn how to fix cabinets or build a shed at Home Depot or Lowe's. Learning can take place in many ways and in many places. What you learn is up to you. That you learn is what Judaism demands, because knowledge can never be taken away. But Jewish tradition teaches that learning something new is not enough. We see this idea throughout Jewish thought, perhaps put most succinctly and directly by Rabbi Shimon. He said, "The study of Torah is not the main thing. The doing of Torah is." Clearly, for Rabbi Shimon, it is a mitzvah to gain knowledge, insight, and understanding. But Rabbi Shimon's teaching challenges us. You may be knowledgeable, but what are you going to accomplish with the knowledge you have acquired? And I would tell you, the most authentic Jewish answer you could give to Rabbi Shimon if he were here was, I am going to accomplish the impossible. In 1936, Jesse Owens went to Berlin to compete in the Olympics. He became the first American to win 4 track and field gold medals, a record that stood for 48 years. And while this would, Dayenu, have been accomplishment enough, how much the more so that he did this in front of Adolf Hitler, the German people, and the world. For no matter how hard Hitler and others tried to perpetuate the superiority of the Aryan race, both before and after Owens' accomplishment, they could not take those accomplishments away. They could not strip Owens of his medals or erase his name from the record books, even though they would have been content to do so, and much more. In 1936, Jesse Owens showed the world that what many believed impossible was possible. That anything could be accomplished, no matter how difficult the task, no matter the obstacles put in one's way. As Jews, we should not be surprised that such a thing could happen. After all, how feasible is it that a group of slaves could escape from a great Pharaoh and his army? Could a young boy named David defeat a giant named Goliath with just a slingshot? Who could have believed that in May 1948, David Ben-Gurion would stand in Tel Aviv and utter the words declaring Israel a state? Or that in 1967, a group of young soldiers would liberate Jerusalem? We believe that nothing is impossible because we have seen it with our own eyes. So I ask you, what will you accomplish in 5776 that you and others once thought impossible? Will you run your first marathon? Will you start or finish a degree in school? Will you create a financial plan that allows you to retire on your terms? Will you dedicate yourself to eating right and getting in physical shape that allows you to see the doctor less and play with your kids and grandkids more? The possibilities are endless, and I hope you will hear Judaism's call, clear as the shofar, and this year accomplish at least one thing that you never have before. Because the truth is, when you have accomplished a goal, it can never be taken away. Not only can the accomplishment not be taken away, but the impact of what you accomplish cannot be taken away either. After Jesse Owens accomplished what he did, no one could ever say again that a person's skin color defines athletic superiority. And millions of children of all colors, races, creeds, and religions were inspired to take up running so they could be like their hero. And after David Ben-Gurion stood in Tel Aviv, no one could ever deny that a Jewish state exists and deserves to exist forever. And millions of Jews from around the world to this very day have been inspired by those words to make Aliyah. So who will you impact this year? How will you shape someone's life? This is a daunting task for sure, but let me offer the following guidance. We spoke earlier about how the words of prayer are supposed to move us, like learning something new this year in the prayer for knowledge in the Amidah. But the Amidah is made up of 19 prayers, providing us with 19 opportunities to make an impact on the world, our community, and ourselves. And while I will not go through all 19 this evening, let me just share a few possibilities. The 6th blessing of the Amidah focuses on forgiveness, and we pray, "Forgive us, Adonai, for we have erred. Pardon us, God, for we have sinned." Sure, when we recite this prayer, we are asking God to forgive us for sins that are between God and ourselves. But remember, prayer should inspire us to do in this world as well. Maybe you've had a long-standing disagreement with a friend that has caused you to be distant from each other. Maybe you are estranged from a family member for 3 or 5 or 10 years. Maybe you miss them, the conversations you had, the time you shared, the love you still have in your heart. Maybe you wish you could know what was going on in their life and want to share what is going on in your life with them. And maybe for some reason prior to this day and moment, you have been unable to pick up the phone or send an email letting them know how you feel. So I'm asking you, on this first day of 5776, think about the impact you could make on your own life and the life of another if you forgave the person who you deeply care for and made that call or sent that email, sharing your feelings, asking for forgiveness. In the 16th blessing of the Amidah, we say the words, "Hear our voice, Adonai our God. Be compassionate to us and accept our prayer." Yes, we come today for the next 10 days and for the entire year to share our innermost thoughts with God, hoping and praying that God will hear what we have to say and accept that we are truly sorry. And I ask, if it is true that we are to be inspired by words of prayer, whose voice are you going to hear this year? Whose prayer are you going to answer? Will you hear the cry of the child that has no food? Will you feel the bone-chilling cold of a homeless man or woman in December? Will you heed the call of those being oppressed by their government? Will you provide an ear for the woman who is fleeing from an abusive relationship? Imagine the impact you would have on the life of another whose prayer you heard this year. And when I say the life, I really mean it. You do not need to have an impact on the entire world. But if you hear one person's prayer, and you hear one person's prayer, and I hear one person's prayer, and we all act to help that one person we hear, imagine the impact we could have on making the world the place we as Jewish people dream of. We read in Isaiah 42, Ani Adonai, kiraticha v'tzedek, v'achzek biyadecha, v'etzarcha, v'etencha livrit am le'or goyim. I am the Lord. I called you with righteousness, and I will strengthen your hand. And I formed you, and I made you for a people's covenant, for a light to the nations. As we enter into 5776, let us not focus on what will fill up our homes, garages, and offices. Let us be a light to our families, friends, community, and ourselves by learning something new, accomplishing the impossible, and impacting the world around us. Because 2 TV sets and 2 Cadillac cars, they ain't gonna help you at all. Shana Tova.